fans, look at this. This is what is left over of what that man did to me and to this. This is the pride of my people.
How did fans go from cheering Peter Maivia to booing him out of the building? It's one of the wildest turnarounds in wrestling history. Peter Maivia was once one of the most loved guys in the ring, but then he flipped the script. Out of nowhere, he changed everything and became a full-blown heel. It shocked everyone. So let's dive in and break down how he went from fan favorite to one of the most hated men in the business. One infamous story from his wrestling days involves a backstage fight with British wrestler Billy Robinson. The story goes that Robinson insulted Peter by calling him a savage after seeing him eat with his fingers, a traditional custom in many Polynesian cultures. Offended and angered, Peter reportedly punched Robinson, and according to some versions of the tale, even gouged out his eye and threw him through a window. However, other sources suggest that Robinson had lost the eye in a childhood accident, and that the story was likely exaggerated over time. Either way, the story highlights Peter's fierce pride in his culture and his refusal to tolerate disrespect. In the late 1970s, Peter made a major shift in his wrestling character. After years of being the beloved fan favorite, he turned heel, wrestling lingo for becoming a villain, during a storyline feud with then-champion Bob Backlund in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. It was a shocking twist for fans who had always seen Peter as the good guy. But in the world of wrestling, even the heroes can take a dark turn. This heel run added a new layer to his character and showed just how versatile he was as a performer. Sadly, behind the scenes, Peter was dealing with something far more serious than wrestling rivalries. In 1981, he began feeling unwell, but like many tough men of his generation, he brushed off the symptoms. Friends and family begged him to see a doctor, but he kept putting it off. When he finally did get checked out, the news was devastating. He had cancer, and it had already spread too far to be treated. It was inoperable. Despite the diagnosis, Peter kept going for as long as he could. He even continued to wrestle for a while, unwilling to let illness slow him down. But by February 1982, his condition had worsened to the point where he had to retire from the ring. Maivia passed away on June 13, 1982, at just 45 years old. His death was a huge loss, not just to his family and friends, but to the entire wrestling world. His legacy, though, lives on. His influence can be seen in the way his grandson, The Rock, carries himself, with pride, with charisma, and with that same larger-than-life presence that Peter brought to every arena he entered. But long before The Rock ever stepped into a ring, Peter had already carved out his place in history. Peter wasn't just a wrestler, he was a larger-than-life character with a commanding presence, both in and out of the ring. His full-body tribal tattoos, his intense stare, and his proud heritage made him instantly recognizable. Fans adored him for his charisma, strength, and unique style, and for many years he played the role of the heroic babyface, the good guy who always fought with honor and respect. Peter's journey into wrestling began after spending his early years in American Samoa. In his early 20s, he moved to New Zealand, where his life would take a new turn. It was there that he began training under the guidance of Steve Rickard, a well-known wrestler and promoter in the region. Rickard not only taught him the ins and outs of wrestling, but also saw something special in the young Samoan: strength, charisma, and a willingness to learn. Under Rickard's mentorship, Peter quickly developed into a strong and talented wrestler. It didn't take long for Maivia, who wrestled under the name Prince Peter Maivia, to start making waves. On August 3, 1964, less than a year after beginning his training, he shocked the wrestling world by winning the New Zealand Heavyweight Championship. Although he lost it just 3 days later, back to his trainer, Rickard, the message was loud and clear. Maivia was a rising star. That brief title reign gave him credibility, and from that point on, he was seen as a main event player in New Zealand. Later that same year, Maivia continued his climb by winning the NWA Australasian Heavyweight Championship after defeating a wrestler named Kangaroo Kennedy. This was a big deal. Holding that title for 4 years, from 1964 to 1968, Maivia built his reputation as a tough, reliable, and crowd-pleasing performer. And while he was growing as a wrestler, he was also growing as a man, learning how to work the crowd, mastering his in-ring style, and living the wrestling life full-time. With New Zealand as his base, Maivia began branching out, taking bookings in other countries and expanding his name. By the late 1960s, he had started wrestling in Japan for International Wrestling Enterprise. This opened doors for him across Asia and beyond, and he soon found himself working with promotions in Australia, France, the United Kingdom, and eventually the United States. From 1969 to 1975, Peter Maivia made a name for himself across many U.S. wrestling territories. He wrestled for NWA Hollywood, NWA San Francisco, World Class Championship Wrestling in Texas, Houston Wrestling, and even the American Wrestling Association. No matter where he went, he brought with him the energy, intensity, and cultural pride that made him stand out. He held multiple championships during this time, but more importantly, he earned the respect of fans and fellow wrestlers alike. Then came a major turning point in 1977. Peter joined the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, the company that would later become WWE. This move brought him into the national spotlight. Fans were drawn to his powerful build, intense stare, and traditional Samoan tattoos, which stretched across his stomach and legs, symbols of his status as a high chief from the Maletoa line. In the ring, he became known as the Flying Hawaiian, and he quickly became one of the biggest stars in the company. During his time in the WWF, Maivia had memorable matches with top names like superstar Billy Graham, Ivan Putski, and Bob Backlund. For a while, he played the heroic babyface, the good guy who fans loved to cheer for. But in a shocking twist in 1978, he turned heel for the first time in his career. During a tag team match involving Backlund, Spiros Arion, and Victor Rivera, Maivia betrayed Backlund and aligned with the villains. It was a bold move that added a whole new layer to his character and showed how versatile he really was. While working with the WWF, Maivia also kept busy wrestling in places like Hawaii, Japan, Los Angeles, Detroit, San Francisco, Toronto, and even New Zealand. He was always on the move, always performing, and always representing his culture with pride. But despite his success, his time in the WWF came to an end in 1981. He left the company and returned to California, where he captured the NWA America's Heavyweight Championship. Yet another highlight in a long and successful career. Tragically, things took a darker turn around this time. In 1981, Maivia began experiencing health issues. Friends and family noticed he wasn't himself and urged him to see a doctor. But like many proud and stubborn men of his generation, Peter ignored the signs. By the time he finally got checked, it was too late. The doctors found cancer, and it was inoperable. Still, in true Maivia fashion, he didn't let it stop him immediately. He wrestled one final match in Hawaii in February 1982, defeating Victor Rivera. Just days later, he officially retired from the ring. Maivia passed away on June 13, 1982, at the age of just 45. The wrestling world mourned the loss of one of its true warriors. His death was a heartbreaking moment, but his story was far from over. His influence would continue for generations. Outside the ring, Peter was more than just a wrestler. He was a loving husband to Ofelia Fuataga, better known as Leah Maivia, one of the first female wrestling promoters. Together, they helped run Polynesian Pro Wrestling in Hawaii, a promotion tied to the National Wrestling Alliance. Through this, Peter helped build and grow wrestling in the Pacific region. He also adopted Leah's daughter, Ata, who would go on to marry Rocky Johnson and give birth to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Peter was also connected to the legendary Anoa'i family, thanks to a traditional Samoan blood brother pact with Amituanai Anoa'i, the father of the wild Samoans Afa and Sika. Because of this, Peter's family is seen as part of the extended Anoa'i dynasty, which includes stars like Roman Reigns, the Russos, Rikishi, and Yokozuna. This bond helped form one of wrestling's most dominant legacies. Maivia also dipped his toes into Hollywood. He appeared in the James Bond film You Only Live Twice, playing a driver who picks up a disguised Bond and ends up in a fight scene. Peter not only acted in the film, but also worked as its stunt fight coordinator. His powerful look and natural intensity made him perfect for the role, and it wouldn't be the last time Hollywood looked to his family for talent. Years later, his grandson Dwayne would follow in his footsteps, first in the wrestling world, then as a movie star. In fact, Dwayne has often said that Peter was a huge inspiration. When Disney's animated film Moana was being developed, designers based the look of the demigod Maui on photographs of Peter Maivia. It was a fitting tribute to a man who embodied strength, pride, and cultural identity. In 2008, Peter Maivia was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, alongside his son-in-law, Rocky Johnson. The induction was made even more special because it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson himself who presented it. Eta, Peter's daughter, accepted the award on his behalf, making it a full-circle moment for the Maivia family. Maivia's life may have been cut short, but his legacy stretches far beyond the years he lived. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a pioneer, a cultural ambassador, a family man, and a legend. Through the generations of wrestlers who followed in his footsteps, and through the millions of fans who remember his strength and spirit, Peter Maivia still lives on. And that's a wrap for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an update. See you next time. Bye.